Hey friends, welcome back to the show. As you build your business, we've got to remove you as the bottleneck in the business. And so to do this, we need to build up your team. But the problem that people run into as we're doing this is you have so much passion, you have so much drive, you have so much wisdom when it comes to your business. So how do we instill that into your leadership team? This is the conversation that I had today with Tom Healy. And Tom has built incredible courses and programs and books. He knows how to inspire and lead your team. But I think the thing that you're going to find most interesting in today's conversation with Tom is that he has become a leader. He has become a digital course creator, and he found a distribution channel that you've likely never considered. And when I discovered this in my conversation with Tom, I was like, Tom, this is brilliant. So good. So today I want you to let go of the limitations that you put on your mind when it comes to courses and programs and ways that you can have influence in your life. Be present, be open, and Tom will inspire you to see new channels that will allow you to live your greatest life. Let's hop into the show. Tom, it's really incredible to meet you. And I would love to better understand your unique perspective. So tell us the story of an experience that has radically formed and shaped how you view the world today.
I think a lot of my personal and professional life as I sit here today was shaped by two mentors of mine. So when I was growing up, I didn't have a close relationship with my father. I was raised by a single mother, but there were two guys that I just had a lot of respect for, personally and professionally. Both were entrepreneurs. So, cool. I think a lot of who I am today was shaped by, I looked at those two men and I said, well, they're really good fathers. They're really good husbands. They treat everyone they're around really well, no matter who that person is. These are two people that are extremely comfortable in any setting. Low, high, everything in between doesn't matter. They are entrepreneurs. They treat the people that work for them really well. They have the freedom and flexibility that goes along with that. Obviously, they make sacrifices to have that freedom and flexibility. So those two people, coupled with my mom, who was extremely hardworking, my grandfather, who was extremely hardworking, and my aunt, small family, but I was just around hardworking, entrepreneurial people. And so I think that really shaped who I've become professionally as well as personally. I have two young kids, and like probably everyone else listening to this, I'm constantly playing that game of how do you balance it all. And when I'm at the office, I feel bad I'm not at home. When I'm at home, I feel bad I'm not at the office providing for them, right? So it's that constant struggle. But I hope that gives a good answer to your question.
Yeah. One of your areas of expertise is helping people to execute faster. And a lot of times an entrepreneur is maxed out. And so the idea of going faster almost seems impossible. I've met people who are working 80, 90, up to 120 hours a week. When I meet those people, I'm like, are there that many hours in a week? And so I think my guess is, Tom, that how you approach this getting more done faster isn't about pedaling faster, and yet it's utilizing different tools. So help us understand some of those tools and how somebody can begin to execute faster without running harder.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts on that. I look at it in two categories. I think there's, in terms of how do we get more done, I think there's tactical, logistical technology. So managing an effective calendar, some really good traits on email management, so that doesn't crush you, task management, prioritization, day-to-day stuff. So I've got a system that I've refined over the years, but has served me well, where I try to make every hour count. I try to time block and prioritize things and categorize things, and some things get moved to the back burner. So there's kind of that tactical thing, and I believe that we all are going to find the system that works well for us. One thing doesn't work for everyone, but if you can perfect that, I do believe that same block of time, hey, I'm going to work 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever you decide on, I think you can really maximize your minutes if you're incredibly efficient. So I'm always looking for ways to drive efficiency. That's what we can control. The other half of the equation is people. So, eventually we get to a place where not everything is us. That could be through subcontractors, that could be through gig workers, that could be through employees. But we eventually have to surround ourselves with other people that can give us leverage. And, I've worked really hard to try to, just from like a gig worker standpoint, fractional standpoint, I try to surround myself with really, really good people. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to do everything. We feel like no one can do it as well as us. We feel like we can save money by not outsourcing. The reality is that, as we sit here today, there's just incredible people and incredible companies out there that can give us a tremendous amount of leverage in our business for a very nominal fee. For instance, I own two businesses, but in both of those, I work with a bookkeeping firm. They handle every transaction. They handle all the financial organization. They do the monthly P&L. They provide me all the documents to give to my accountant at the end of the year. I'm paying
So good.
I'm paying hundreds of dollars a month for that. I'm not paying $1,000 a month for it. I'm not paying thousands.
That's
I'm not
great.
managing a bookkeeper. So you take that one task and it's like, I don't think about it, out of sight, out of mind. The documents are in a Dropbox when I need them. I don't obsess over them, but taking yourself out of that one function of the business for hundreds of dollars a month. And then if you can do that with marketing and you can do that with some you then can gain back your time, because the other thing is a lot of that stuff, take bookkeeping, for instance. For most entrepreneurs, that activity is soul crushing. Why? Because it's not our strength, right? You probably didn't say, hey, I got a great mind for numbers. I love working with numbers. I love doing spreadsheets. And now I'm going to go start a business. You probably said, hey, I'm really good at doing something, some skill, something creative, or I've got this great idea, but I hate dealing with numbers. So when we spend our energy on things that we're not good at and not naturally hardwired to do at a high level, it drains our energy. So it kills our productivity, right? Because, me trying to do something I'm not good at, it takes me a really long time. My energy level goes down. Right. And then the other stuff that's really important that I should be doing that I need to get to, I've got no gas left in the tank to handle it. So therefore, what could have been a really productive day turns into, kind of a blah day. And then that's what I believe, that's what kills our energy as entrepreneurs. Because then we go, I'm working 7 days a week and I'm exhausted. What I've found is when I'm exhausted, it's from doing things that I hate doing, not from things that I love doing. So I enjoy conversations like this. I love telling the story of our business and my journey and who we help and how we help them. And, so from conversations like this and business development and speaking on stage or doing a workshop, I could do that all day because it gives me energy. I'm not going to come home at the end of the day and go, I'm exhausted, I got nothing left. But if I'm doing things that I don't enjoy, administrative stuff, financial stuff, operational stuff, that's where I'm just like, I hate being an entrepreneur and I wish I could go work for a company and not have to deal with any of this stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and speaking to your story, oftentimes as entrepreneurs, when we're solving a problem, we're also solving our own problem. And so I would guess at some point you felt like you weren't as efficient as you wanted to be as an entrepreneur. Tell us that story. How did you start to even pursue better understanding performance and high performance? And what are some of the insights that you've had as you've not only sought this out, but you teach it from stage, you teach it on campuses, you teach it to your customers and clients. Why did that even matter to you?
Yeah. So I think part of the challenge I had when I was younger and started my business was that I was doing a lot of professional speaking, which meant I was doing a lot of travel. And I maxed out at about 125 nights of business travel, which
Wow.
That's over a 30-year year. That doesn't include personal travel. That doesn't include, going home to see family. Those are rough nights. And those were mostly college campuses. So they were really hard places to get to. So you 2 flights, rental car, drive an hour and a half, get up the next morning, drive an hour and a half back. I mean, brutal and by yourself. So
Not glamorous.
no, not glamorous at all. And
Yeah.
I learned that I hated everything except that 1 hour that I was speaking, and that's why I
Mm.
stopped traveling. And that took me many years to figure out. But what I realized was, okay, I want to do more things professionally than just go out, deliver a speech, get a check. The problem was I had no time. So I had to kind of obsess over this stuff because I'm like, well, I need to pay the bills. I need to keep being a road warrior and doing that, but I've got to figure out a way to find time, whether it's on flights, whether it's on weekends, whether it's whatever that might be, to be able to leverage myself. Because what I found was most people that were doing what I was doing at the time, speaking, consulting, coaching, from a traveling standpoint, they always said, I want to stop traveling, but no one was willing to take the risk, put in the time to pivot that. I mean, years ago, I was telling people, a lot of the people that were traveling for consulting and coach, I said, do it on Zoom, or and back then I think it was like go to meeting or whatever. I don't even know if we had Zoom. I mean, so I just said do it on video, and then people said, well, some of my clients would leave me. I said, yeah, and you'd pick up new clients. And you wouldn't have to pay for travel, and you wouldn't get beaten into the ground traveling, and you could leverage yourself far better. So I've just always had this obsession over, how do I maximize my energy and time, and how do I eliminate waste? But yeah, I had to work really hard to create that time to make that possible, because like I said, what I found was so many people said they wanted to do something different or have a different lifestyle, but they weren't willing to figure out how to make that a reality.
And I can imagine, Tom, at some point there was a younger version of you that would think, wouldn't it be amazing to be on stages, 30 plus times a year, and to be traveling and staying in hotels? And it's true, like, as entrepreneurs creating a vision and building our business, we start pursuing it only to realize there's some major components to it that we don't love. And then having the courage to say, wow, I don't love this travel. I thought I was going to. I don't. And yes, I love that hour when I'm on stage, but everything else around it is, to your point, draining me, right? And so how can I set up my life to have that hour of excitement and energy and sharing and teaching and training without all that downside? And so many people aren't willing to stop and examine themselves like that, even examine their energy. As entrepreneurs, we're hard workers, we're disciplined, and it's like, I'm just going to keep powering through. And something had you pausing, saying, this doesn't light me up.
Well, let me tell you real quick because I think this is a really important exercise. So I now ask the question to entrepreneurs, what gives you energy? Mm-hmm. And I really hold them to that because, all of us are doing a lot of stuff that doesn't give us energy, and it crushes us and it makes us hate our businesses. And I ask that question. But what happened for me is I spent my 20s doing the road warrior thing, 100 plus nights of travel. And I got married. Oh God, I'm bad on years, but when I got married, I was on my honeymoon. We were in Hawaii. We were walking down the beach. And I remember just thinking to myself, that weekend was awesome. Like that was the wedding weekend was like perfect. And I'm like, well, what was so great about it? Because I could tell you that like I grew up as a young boy dreaming about my wedding. Obviously, that wasn't the case. But I'm like, why was that weekend so perfect? Well, the reason it was perfect is because everyone that was important in my life was in one place. So why was that important to me? Well, it was important to me because what gives me energy is being around people. And not just random people at a networking event, but people that I have a deep relationship with, people that are friends, people that have known me for a long time, people that I really just enjoy being around. People is what gives me energy. So then my mind went to, well, why am I so burned out with business? Why am I like at my breaking point? Oh, because 23 hours out of the day, I'm not with people. I'm by myself traveling in a rental car in an airport. That other hour, I'm really not with people because I'm on stage speaking to strangers. I'm just looking out at a, black wall and telling the same stories I've told 100 times. So I immediately shifted everything I was doing to really focus locally. And I said, I love speaking. I love consulting. I love facilitating. I love putting people into a room, helping them get better, helping them help each other get better. Well, I should be doing that locally for entrepreneurs, not traveling to go see them or traveling to college campuses or traveling to companies. So the activity, the lesson and all that is really figuring out, what do you love? What do you hate? Because I didn't hate speaking. I didn't hate coaching. I didn't hate consulting. I didn't hate educating, right? I love doing that. I just hated where I was doing it at. But I could have just as easily said, okay, I never want to speak on stage ever again. I'm going to go work for a company and sell a widget and be perfectly happy and not have to travel. I would have missed the entire point of why I hated what I was doing. So it's you got to your point, you said something like that, which was, you got to figure those things out, right? You got to figure out what you love, what you hate. Because even, and I've said this to like college students that are getting ready to go work somewhere. I think everyone focuses so much on, oh, I want to work in this industry. And I'm like, well, who cares? Like, what you need to figure out is, do I want to work for a big company or do I want to work for a small company? Do I want, to be a cog in the wheel, or do I want to have a lot of control? Do I want to work in a big city or a small city? Do I want to work from home or not? All those things matter a lot more than, oh, I want to, be an attorney. Well, there's a lot of different things. And you could sit there and go, I hate being in counsel. I hate being on the defensive side. So there's a lot of nuances even inside of any profession or any business.
Yeah. Yeah. As you share all these stories and examples and talk about efficiency, one of the things you brought up is leverage. And a huge form of leverage these days, especially if you're a coach or a consultant, is creating some sort of like online course, online program, which you have. And what stuck out to me is your program is being utilized on 100+ college campuses. In order to have a successful program, you have to have a really clear distribution model, and people are already on campus to learn. And yet you're this outside, I'm really curious about this, Tom, you're this outside force that has wisdom to share. And somehow you've infiltrated the university college campuses with your program. Tell me a little bit about that. I'm really curious about how you've been able to do that. I'm sure all of these trips to college campuses were maybe a part of that, but help us see how you did that.
Yeah, so it's a great point, and selling content online sounds incredible because it's the proverbial make money while you sleep, and I'm going to wake up and there's going to be 20 new orders, and that sounds amazing. And frankly, I could probably make a lot of money if I just promised people that I could build them an online course and they could sell a whole bunch of them. The reality is that the business side of selling content online is really tough because there's a lot of stuff out there and there's a lot of free stuff out there. So the lesson in what I've done with the stuff in higher education is, if you're going to go down the road of developing online content, to me, there's kind of two paths, right? One path is, I'm going to build stuff and I'm going to give it away for free. And I'm giving it away for free because I'm not trying to monetize my online content. I'm trying to get really good one-on-one coaching clients, or I'm trying to get consulting projects. So I generally say, just give it away for free, because the content's not the value. The value is you. The value is me. The value is someone one-on-one working with you on your unique issues and challenges. However, if you say, well, how do you monetize online content? The theme of this is niche, right? You've got to pick a hyper-targeted niche. So you can't say, oh, well, I'm going to build a leadership course and charge for it. No, you need to say, I'm going to build a leadership course that is for executive directors of nonprofits that are in this industry, I mean, you just keep going, right? So it's got to be like hyper targeted niche. So like the stuff we do in higher education, I mean, we work with a certain type of campus that wants a very specific piece of education, meaning they say, hey, for every incoming freshman, we want to provide them training on sexual violence prevention. And it needs to be, for our campus laws and our state laws and very specific. And it needs to only speak to college students, and it needs to be very sensitive to some of the nuances of college students, college campuses, academia. Like that's hyper targeted. That's not saying here's the, sexual harassment tape that we're going to put in the VCR and, provide boring training for. I mean, it's hyper targeted. So that's where when I'm giving advice or brainstorming with people, again, either let's just give it away for free, because really where we're taking them is to buy your super duper consulting program, or it's got to be hyper targeted, because someone's got to look at this and go, this is the perfect program for me. And if it's not targeted, people don't feel like it's for them. Does that help?
So yeah. So for you specifically, you didn't create a product, create a program, and then go shop it around at college campuses. What I'm hearing you say is you went to college campuses and said, where do you need help? And specifically, what are the constraints that solution needs to operate within? And then you went and created the product. Is that correct? And is it many products, or is it kind of the same program that you're selling to all of these campuses?
So we have 10 different online courses that are very niched and for very specific audiences. Cool. We have, for instance, one that is for women considering joining a sorority. But what do you, how do, But how do I join one, and how much does it cost, and is it worth the investment, and am I going to get hazed, and how do I figure out the right organization that aligns with my personal values, and what are my personal values, by the way? Hyper targeted. But from a business standpoint, well, how did I know that was a thing? Well, I spent the better part of the decade.
I just have to hop in here for a second. Well,
no.
I'm looking at you. This is really cool, actually, because I'm looking at you thinking, Tom has no idea how a woman joins a sorority. Like that's so. How do you? You're approaching it as an entrepreneur, saying, how do I create value? How do I help people? And so you go in and keep going.
So there are very few things I'm good at. One thing I'm good at is I have this knack for what I call like connecting the dots, meaning I don't have to know anything about an industry I can just connect the dots and go, okay, well, you have this vulnerable, really nice young lady who wants to join a sorority. She's a first-generation college student. She knows nothing about being in a sorority. She's super nervous to go to a school with 40,000 students. She's taking out $100,000 in debt. And now you're asking her for $600 to maybe be able to get into a sorority. Well, does she need some education? Does she need some information? Sure, she does. What does she need? What would I want to know so just trying to connect the dots of, and then the campuses want more people to join, but more people aren't going to join unless they have basic education. So I try to just connect the dots. I don't have to be the subject matter expert. In fact, I didn't write that curriculum. I'm not on screen delivering that curriculum.
That's cool. Yeah.
I'm just in the background saying, okay, well, you have the potential member that wants to join, you have the campus that wants more members, you have the chapters that want more members, you have the national organization that wants more members. Well, how do we facilitate all that happening? And so I've become deeply immersed in that. But so how that happened, though, was I spent all this time on college campuses. And, I was paid to speak. So it was, hey, Tom, we have this problem and we want you to solve it. Well, I'd love to say that in 1 hour, I could come in and I could change everybody's minds and change their hearts and make them laugh and cry and, completely change their perspective on the world. That's absolutely not going to happen. So I recognize that the in-person delivery of content wasn't always best. it wasn't always feasible. Hey, we have 10,000 students that we want to hear this message. Well, I can't put 10,000 people into an auditorium. I mean, maybe we could, but some wouldn't show up. Some wouldn't pay attention. Some would have class, whatever it would be. We don't have the building size to be able to do that, whatever it is. So I realized many years ago, almost 10 years ago now, hey, there's a way to push out education online. It may not be as impactful as a one-on-one or a speaker in person, but if we can give 10,000 people some basic information, is that better than trying to put 500 into an auditorium at 8 o'clock on a Thursday night when all they can think about is how they're missing happy hour? So what I found was for these college students is a lot of times they were more engaged in online education because it was on their schedule. So they could sit in Starbucks and they could watch the video or listen to it while they're walking across campus. They're actually more engaged online than they were in person, if you can believe that. So I just found these little issues on college campuses where it wasn't either feasible or, like orientation. We want to provide information before they get to campus. Well, before they get to campus, they're not on campus. So the only way you can do that is online. Well, what information do you want to give them? Well, we want to talk to them about their mental health so that they're prepared when, the stresses of campus hit them the day they move in. Well, great. Let's give them mental health education in June because we know that if we're able to put some things on their radar, they're more likely to go to class, stay in school, not drop out, which is what most campuses want because, they have attrition rates because students aren't prepared for success. So I just found niche inside higher ed.
Yeah.
And I've done that. And I've done that with companies too. That's how, our other,
I believe it.
Yeah, our other business, it's the same thing. I mean, it just came from hearing entrepreneurs complain about the same thing over and over.
Quick question for you. What would happen in your business and life if you could show up powerfully? As a coach to high-performing entrepreneurs, I help intelligent people like you do just that. And if you want to be inspired by people who are getting more done in 90 days than most people do all year, I'm going to invite you to go check out my case studies. The website is now.katierichardson.com/case study. And the cool thing is we've got so many case studies there. You can find an entrepreneur who's just like you. I've also got a link for you down in the show notes. Okay, back to the show.
So it's not like I try to just listen to people and read and hear things. I don't try to, I think one thing we can do as entrepreneurs that's horrible is when we think we're really, really smart and we try to create products or services or solutions for things that people either won't pay for or don't think is a problem. And I'm guilty of that too. I've created things that I'm like, this is the best idea in the world and this is going to take off and it's going to be incredible. But people don't even realize it's a problem or they don't care or they don't want to pay for it or whatever the case is. So I feel like the best ideas are when, we hear a need enough times from a certain type of person or company, not when we think, oh, I'm so smart, I'm going to go draw something on my whiteboard and everyone's going to, buy it, even though they don't realize it's a problem.
There's a couple of really cool things here in your story, Tom. I think there's a lot of coaches and consultants specifically who love problem solving, connecting the dots like you, right? Are able to see the trends, zoom out and see the real problem and not be so down in the weeds and bring in the people to solve it. And what I think is so cool is you have developed systems where, also sometimes those coaches and consultants might, for whatever reason, be hesitant to be the one delivering the message, turning on the camera, the one creating the course and program. And what you're saying is you don't have to, you can still connect the dots for people. You can still solve a very niched problem and you don't have to be the solution or the one who delivers the message, which I think is really cool. And I've got a client specifically right now who's kind of facing this and realizing I don't want to be in front of the camera all the time. And I don't want to share my life story on social media with everybody, but there's a lot of things about coaching and consulting that he loves. And you're saying you don't have to be the one who puts the camera on yourself. And then the other really interesting thing that you're talking about is just how niched we're able to get in today's world. And, we have different platforms like YouTube and LinkedIn, where we can get really, really down in the details with people and get really, really specific. And I think it's one thing to say you need to niche down, but it's another to actually be able to do that. What are some things that either you've done to allow yourself to really niche down, or ways that you help other people niche down? Because it right now it feels like a buzzword. Oh yeah, we got to niche down. But like, how do you actually do that?
So let's look at how people buy products, right? So when you're looking for virtually anything these days, or me or anyone listening to this, we now more than ever before are looking for specialists, not generalists. Meaning, well, I'll give you a stupid example. So if you have a leak in your house, you call a plumber that works on homes. You don't call your doctor and say, hey, can you come over and fix this leak? Or, you don't want someone showing up saying, yeah, I just got off my other job. I pick up garbage and now I'm here to fix your leak. I do this kind of on the side. You just go, yeah, I'm okay. Please don't touch that. Right. Because you want someone that's like, yeah, this is all I do. I sit here, I go into homes and I fix leaks and I do plumbing, and I've been doing this for 30 years. And you're like, okay, I got my guy, like, perfect. We all want specialists. So, the problem is that people from a coaching consulting space, they try to be everything for everyone. And that's not what people want. That's not what people buy. So if you're looking for a marketing agency, you're typically like, well, I want someone that understands our industry intimately, that only works with B2B clients, that understands everything about what we're trying to do, not someone that says, oh, we, work with all these different brands and it's all these different industries and B2B and B2C. You'd sit there and you'd go, that's not the organization that I want to work with. Or if you did, you'd probably get burned and go, okay, now I need a specialist. Yeah. So I say all that to say that how we all buy stuff and pay attention to this is we're always looking for the expert. We're always looking for the specialist. So if I'm a coach or a consultant or I'm building a business, I want to be the perfect solution for a very specific person, not try to be everything for everyone. So, we have a coaching business where we go into companies and we provide coaches to their key people. But really, we're only targeting founder-led companies between 25 to 250 employees. And that's it. And if I was sitting here in a year, I'd probably be even more niched in that. So I believe that we need to be an expert to a very specific person. And I know people hate that because people think, well, if I am only for this audience, then I'm losing the ability to sell to everyone else. The problem is if you're trying to sell to everyone, no one's going to buy because they're going to go, the people, put it this way, the people that I know that are absolutely killing it in the coaching consulting space are hyper targeted. I don't know any generalist that's killing it. Everyone is hyper targeted. So you have people that say, I only work with founders of software companies that are bootstrapped. If you raised money, I'm not going to work with you. If you're not the founder of the company, I'm not going to work with you. If you're, in a business that's not software, not going to work with you. He's killing it. A friend of mine that only works with digital marketing agencies in New Jersey. He's killing it because he only works with digital marketing agencies in New Jersey. And guess what? There's more than enough of them for him to make a very nice living. But when he is talking to someone, that person is hearing, this is an expert. I may not work with him. Yeah. Maybe I can't afford him. Maybe there's a personality conflict. Maybe he talks too slow, or he talks too fast, or he's too young, or he's too old. Like, you're not going to be for everyone, but at least they can look at you and go, okay, that is someone that only works with people like me. So long-winded way of saying you have to niche. You can't niche enough. And if you don't niche, I believe you're going to have a very, very hard time being able to scale a practice, because nobody's going to look at you and go, that's the perfect person for me. She is the perfect fit for me.
Yeah. We started out the conversation, you were talking about how online coaching and consulting, it's not an easy business. It looks like you're going to make money while you're sleeping, but it's not. It's a lot of hard work. And, I've been an entrepreneur for 18 plus years now, and I've watched as all of the different distribution channels have evolved. And it used to be pretty easy to grow an Instagram following. It's pretty hard these days, and the platforms are all shifting. And one of the platforms that you utilize, I think, quite effectively is LinkedIn. Share with us a little bit about your strategy for LinkedIn and how you utilize it to get your word, your brand out there.
So broadly speaking, I look at like business development in three phases. There was pre-COVID, there was the beginning of COVID, and then there was the past year. So humor me for a second here. Pre-COVID, you're a coach, you're a consultant, you're an entrepreneur, you are doing business development, you're trying to reach out to people in your target market, have a phone call with them, buy them a cup of coffee, turn them into a client. That was actually pretty easy to do. Now, it took a lot of repetitions. It scared some people, right? But I mean, if you had 50 cups of coffee, you'd get 15 clients. I mean, you unless you were horrible at what you did, it just happened, right?
Yeah.
So it was very easy to send a LinkedIn message or send an email or heck, pick up the phone and call someone and have enough discovery calls to have enough follow-up conversations to get clients. Okay.
Yeah.
Easy to do. When COVID hit, it in some ways became harder, but in some ways became easier because anyone would have a Zoom call with you. Anyone would respond to LinkedIn because everyone was home and on their devices. So it was different, but it was actually pretty easy to get. I mean, I had Zoom calls every 30 minutes from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. for probably almost a year straight. It was easy to talk to people.
Yeah.
Then now we're in this current phase. Everyone's sick of LinkedIn messages. Everyone's sick of emails. No one answers their phone anymore. So now it's like almost impossible to do any of those things. So in the course of 3 years, we've gone from it was easy to develop business doing virtually anything you wanted to now it's almost impossible to do any of those things. And it's just incredible. And I've had this conversation with so many people that will all tell you the exact same thing. So it's not me making it up or my own experiences or, hey, I'm just really bad at sales now. No, it's happening to all of us. So I believe you have to be different and you have to do things that other people aren't willing to do. Like right in the background here there's the book. Okay. We just wrote a book. Creating a coaching culture inside your organization. Why did we write a book? Because not everyone wants to write a book. Not everyone can write a book. Not everyone, will put in the time and effort to do that. So it's just something different. We are sending 1,000 of them out locally. When I go and speak, there's one on every chair. It's just something to be different. Because if you do the things everyone else is doing, cold email, cold link, you're not going to get anywhere. So trying a lot of different things like that, giving out a free engagement assessment to companies. Why? Well, because most people wouldn't take the time to build a great assessment and then walk someone through it. So it's just something to be a little bit different. So that's kind of how I view business development over the last 5 to 10 years. Is it was really easy, then it was a little harder, and now it's almost impossible to do those things. But that's where niching comes in play. So how do you break through all that? Well, you have to be hyper targeted. You have to say, hey, I only work with dermatologists that are trying to scale and exit their practice in the next 3 to 5 years. You may actually respond to that if you're a dermatologist that wants to exit their business in the next 3 to 5 years. So you have to be hyper targeted and probably write a book that's only for dermatologists or start a podcast that's only for dermatologists, right? Those are the things you have to do. So you asked about LinkedIn. I'm a firm believer of pick one social. I mean, again, if you're a huge brand, if you're Pepsi, then you need to be on every social network. But for most of us entrepreneurs, pick one social media outlet and try to dominate at it. And it's where your customers are. So if I had a clothing brand, I'd be on Instagram. If I have a B2B platform, I'd be on LinkedIn. So I've chosen LinkedIn. It's where I spend all my social media, brand building time. and I work really hard at it. And it's funny because sometimes I look at it and go, wow, I'm doing a really good job. And then you look at somebody else who's really killing it and you go, oh, I'm, doing a tiny little fraction of what they're doing. So it's all relative and you have to keep that all in mind. But I do believe that spending time, again, if you're in the B2B space, coaching, consulting, small business, selling B2B space, I think you have to be on LinkedIn. I think people care more about your LinkedIn profile than your website. And they absolutely will check you out. So, think of the optics of, I go to someone's LinkedIn page and they've got 350 connections. They've got a blurry photo. They've got no landscape photo, and their bio is really, really weak, and they haven't posted any content, or they posted something and it had 2 likes. I hate saying it, but we're all superficial. I'm going to look at that person and go, they're not a very solid professional. They don't
look serious about their business.
They're not, they don't take their business seriously. They don't have any credibility. They don't have any following, versus, hey, someone's got a high resolution photo and she's smiling. She's got a landscape picture of her podcast or speaking on stage. Her tagline is, this is exactly who I help and how I help them. Really strong bio, experiences that show that she's been there, done that, and has wins in her career. That's a call I'll take. That's someone I'll talk to. That's someone I'm excited to work with. So I think more people look at us on LinkedIn than we realize, and they make stronger judgments than we realize. So even if you say, well, I post all this content, I do all this stuff on LinkedIn, but no one ever contacts me asking me to be their coach. Yeah, but how many people aren't reaching back out to you or aren't working with you because your profile and your presence on LinkedIn is horrible? Or how many people, it's all part of a big equation, right? It's like, well, why do I start a podcast? Why do I write a book? Why do I go on stage? Why do I publish content on LinkedIn? Why do I update my LinkedIn profile? Why do I be a guest on other why do you do all that stuff? You do all of that collectively so that you're seen as someone that's credible in your area of expertise. No one thing is, I did this one speaking engagement and I've been busy for the last 5 years because of it. It's just all part of, a bigger picture, but people have to see you as being credible in what you do. And if they don't, then I think you have a really hard time. And I think that's true. It's not just true. I think when we think personal branding, it's like, oh, you mean like the public speaker? Well, I mean the speaker and the coach and the consultant and the small business owner. Because if you have a small to medium sized business, chances are you as the CEO, founder, owner of the company, people are buying or not buying because of you. And I think sometimes we try to hide. Oh, I have 10 employees now. Let me just hide in the background. No, you need to be on every podcast you can telling your story. You need to be posting content, positioning yourself as a subject matter expert. You have to be willing to be provocative and mix it up a little bit on LinkedIn. You have to be, the preacher of your particular industry, your particular, problem that you solve. And if you're not willing to do that, I think it's really tough. I mean, the idea of, hey, I'm just going to sit in the background, run a bunch of Facebook ads, and then have my salespeople do all the closing. I think you can go out of business doing that. I think you have to embrace stuff like this. And the best way I've ever heard it put was a mentor of mine. And he was just saying, like, he said it, we were actually in a business setting together. And he's like, I just love telling the story. And what he was saying was, I love telling the story about my business and who we help and why I started it and the organizations we work with and the clients we serve and the projects we do. His whole thing was, I'm just going to go out and tell our story as many ways as possible, as many places as possible. And people want to work with me. And that served him well for decades. He sold the business. And so I've very much really, especially in the past year, I've really embraced that. And I'm like, how many places can I go and tell the story? And I feel like the more you tell that story, the more value you provide, the more content you put out there, it'll come back to you somehow, some way. But if you're not willing to tell the story, your phone's not going to ring.
Yeah. Tom, you've shared a lot of wisdom today. I think the coaching and consulting world, sometimes it feels really saturated, but I'm guessing we're just getting started. It's just going to keep growing. And you've shared a lot of wisdom about being efficient with your calendar, like tactically look at your calendar and how can you be really efficient? And then how can you look at the things that you are spending your time doing? How are they impacting your energy? And how can you not do the same thing that everybody else is doing, but how can you do things differently? How can you niche down in a way that you're really, really solving a very specific problem and you've become the expert in that very specific niche? And how can we leverage social media? Pick a platform. That's the other thing you said. Pick a platform and become expert in that platform. And ultimately, it needs to be a platform that has your ideal customers and clients. And this is really sound advice. It's not, what's cool is you're not saying you need to stop all of those things that you're doing. They're just little tweaks. And a lot of times the difference between kind of just making it through day to day or just your business limping along and then experiencing this rapid and exciting growth and success, it's not in scrapping everything that you're doing. It's in making these really simple but powerful tweaks. And I think everybody who's listening has an opportunity to be honest with themselves, look at what they're currently doing and implement maybe just one of these things that you've talked about today. And that in itself will help you execute faster.
Let me share two quick thoughts with you that I think
Cool.
will hopefully be valuable. So the first thing is we talk so much about efficiency and performance and, all the buzzwords, right? Streamlining. And I will say that I do believe as an entrepreneur, yes, we want to do all those things, but we also have to be willing to do the things that other people aren't. And sometimes those things take a lot of time and they feel like they're not efficient. Even inside a company, I see a ton of software companies that want to streamline everything, get rid of humans. We don't have to touch anyone, talk to anyone. Many of them go out of business. Why? Because people sign up for the software and then they don't know how to use it and they cancel it. So if I said to a software founder, hey, you should have a human being that spends an hour onboarding that client and is their point of contact for anything they need whenever. Many founders would go, well, that sounds expensive and that sounds hard. It absolutely is, but that's how you retain a customer for 5 years instead of losing them after 3 months. So sometimes you have to do the things that take time and are harder. There's things that I do that I'm like, well, this is a waste of time, but it's not a waste of time because this is why I'll retain someone for years as opposed to losing them really, really quickly. The other thing, you mentioned little tweaks. One thing I've learned, and I'm continuing to learn and continuing to try to practice, is words really matter. Words matter a ton. So you take a coach, for instance. That coach has incredible experiences, a passion for coaching, the biggest heart in the world. They're incredible at what they do. But they can't get any opportunities because their LinkedIn tagline's horrible. And it doesn't explain what they do. It doesn't explain what their niche is. So no one wants to talk to them. So by changing their LinkedIn tagline, they can radically change their business. Nothing's changed. Their experiences haven't changed. They haven't had a facelift and look like a different person. They haven't, embellished a bunch of LinkedIn experiences. They just changed their tagline and now all of a sudden they're killing it. So these tiny tweaks and these tiny words matter. It's the same for a business. You go on someone's website and do I immediately know who they're for? Do I immediately know the problem they solve? Do I immediately see them as credible? If the words are great, yes. If the words are bad, I go, I have no idea what they do and I click off. So, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of sales for all of us can be impacted by the stupid little words we choose. They matter. So these things may seem like, well, what's the difference in my tagline? What's the difference in the words I put on my website? They're just words. Well, they have a tremendous impact. And so you have to obsess over them and figure them out.
Tom, I can see a lot of passion behind your words and the work that you do. And I can see in my mind keeps asking the question, where does that passion come from? And maybe we can end the podcast by answering, like, what's the mission that you have with your business, and why does it matter to you?
I like being able to control what I do, how I spend my time, who I spend it with, and I don't ever want to relinquish that. So I look at entrepreneurship, I look at the work that I do, and I believe that if I don't continue to make that work and continue to grow that, then the things that are important to me could be taken away. So the passion is really what entrepreneurship does for me, does for my family, does for my ability to have freedom and flexibility. And I don't ever want to relinquish that. The theme in everything that I feel like I've done professionally and do now is really at its core, I believe we all have this incredible potential inside of us. And not only do we, but so do the people that we employ, the people we work with. And everything that I've built and created, I believe, can help people perform better, make better decisions, have a better life, be healthier, make more money, whatever that might be. But I've tried to do things, whether it's me delivering the content or empowering other people with their content, I've just tried to make people have better lives. And I know that small changes, small tweaks, small ideas can radically change people. So I try to create things that can do that. Our business that provides coaching inside of companies, I know that that's what moves the needle. I know that your manager that you see all the potential in the world in, I know that she's not going to get better through a motivational talk. She's going to get better through deep one-on-one coaching. So I want to create an opportunity for her to get that. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but that's what came to mind when you asked me that very, very good question.
Well, it connected a lot of the dots for me. So thank you. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And what's cool is the vehicle that you've created inside of your business. Not only does it solve your problems and your needs with the desire to be in charge of your life and in charge and in control of your time and how you're spending it, but it also solves problems for people. And not just solves problems, it's helping people achieve their potential. And like, man, for me, that kind of thing is just so rewarding, so fulfilling, and ultimately creates that momentum, which is what you're all about.
But I feel for me, it's like, I mean, I could have gone any number of directions, and I could have just as easily had a horrible life and made terrible decisions. And, because of a few mentors and a few close family members, they instilled some things in me that got me on the right path. And not that there weren't plenty of mistakes along the way, but I just feel like that's everyone's story, right? I mean, most of us aren't guaranteed success and greatness and happiness and fulfillment, right? And we see that all the time, where people that are on the wrong path, but for one reason or another are, able to connect with something that allows them to change the entire trajectory of their life. But I think people are, easily manipulatable, right? Good or bad. Like we can change everything and make incredible decisions and have great lives, or not. And these are just, to your point, minor tweaks. It's a mentor, it's reading something, it's hearing something, it's connecting with something that can change everything. It's interesting. It's not, I think sometimes people try to act like, everyone is, destined to be on a certain path for their life and there's no way to ever change that. And we know that that's ridiculous. So anyways, just a closing thought.
Yeah. Tom Healy, this has been an incredible conversation. We've got a link to your LinkedIn. We've also got a link to your website down below. Reach out to Tom. He's got expertise in high performance, helping you execute faster. And ultimately, Tom, this is what's working now.